You know, it's been said for a long time that leaders are readers, and a lot of readers all over North America and all over the world turn to the products from Page Two Publishing out of Vancouver. They specialize in the work of thought leaders and thinkers and innovators. And Jesse Finkelstein is a co-founder and a partner joining us all the way from Vancouver. And Jesse, let's just talk first of all a little bit about your reaction to when the pandemic hit and the news that all of these live events and some of your authors who are also speakers and everything that was going on, everyone's got their own, COVID story from a business perspective, wondering about what was going to happen. What was yours?
Well, we did hear from our authors who are speakers first, about 4 weeks before the kind of official shutdown. Our speaker authors were telling us that their gigs were being canceled. And so for us, that was sort of the canary in the coal mine. And our first point of concern was for them immediately. That was the first thing that sunk in. My co-founder and business partner, Trina, and I met right away to try to get a sense of what that might mean for our authors, for our business, for our team. And so right away we thought, A, we needed to ensure that we could support those authors, whatever that meant. And B, we needed to make sure that our own list and the work that we do is diverse enough that if it was the case, as is proven to be the case, that events were going to change dramatically, that we needed to make sure that our publishing support was diverse enough to accommodate many other kinds of projects, both for that type of author, the speaker author, and for others.
So really, Jesse, you're in the world of publishing, but you're no different than anyone else. You and Trina are no different than anyone else trying to juggle deadlines, resources, people, talent, all of these things. What do you think, from your perspective, now that we're into May, is the biggest thing you've learned so far about the need to pivot, adjust, and be very, very flexible?
I think for me, it's about striking a balance. It's about, on the one hand, wanting to summon all of your energy and force of will to be able to be nimble and thoughtful and adaptable and flexible, and ensure that you're thinking ahead as much as possible under the circumstances and all that stuff. And then on the other hand, we need to take a deep breath over and over. We need to be preserving our mental health. We need to be sleeping. My first thought every day is about my team, as well as our authors, and how they're all doing in this moment. And so there's just this incredibly difficult balance that needs to be struck.
Is there a specific story that speaks to all of it? If we get beyond all the quickly, pivot, for instance, has become quickly a business cliche word. Yeah. What do you think is the most poignant or most dramatic thing that you've seen happen within your company that people watching this could really identify with?
Well, every day we're seeing our authors take things online in unprecedented ways. Some of them have launched their books during this time. Some of our amazing authors, like Jennifer Loudon, for instance, Melanie Parrish, have done online launches, complete with dancing, interviews, all kinds of things. And one of the most moving things for me was tuning into one of those launches and having someone say to one of my authors, you know what, I'm so glad we did it this way, because if you had done it in person, I wouldn't have been able to come. And so it's not ideal. We all wanted to be there in person, toasting each other in person, toasting the authors. But to see the kind of positive spin in some of the things that are cropping up, the positive things that we couldn't have anticipated, is incredible. So there are the launches, there are the speakers who are pivoting, such as yourself, to doing so many online events, webinars, all kinds of things. And then just the leadership in terms of people who are helping us through. That's been incredible from my perspective. looking at, for instance, this beautiful podcast series by one of our authors, Michael Bungay-Stanier, called We Will Get Through This. Such a diverse array of people coming in to talk about how. I get solace every time I tune into it. Hearing some of the small business owners and medium-sized business owners who are participating in your regular Zoom calls, Gare, have given me solace too. All different walks of life. And yet I think, oh, those things are so common and so familiar to me as a business owner. So that kind of stuff has really helped. And then on the other hand, people who are preaching calm and mental health first and breathing are essential. One of our authors, Dina Chachinoff, she did a personal webinar with our team, helping us as a team think of how we can preserve our mental health through the pandemic. And she said, remember, you guys, this is a marathon. So do not burn yourselves out in the sprint. And that's really sat with me every time I think, oh, I need to be scrambling to pivot and do all of these things. I think there's room for both of those things.
That's very well said. And I'm thinking too, from the point of view of any business leader watching this now, you might not be able to go to Chapters and hang out with your latte, but you can certainly order online and get a lot of reading in. And I just found out just before we went on that this just came in the other day from Amazon. I had no idea that Michael Margolis and Story 10X is one of your publications, Jesse, but are there certain books that are, I know you love all your authors, but are certain books right now that are more relevant for business leaders as they, navigate through these historic events?
That's definitely a tough one. I would actually say that at this moment, I'm actually recommending to our authors that they continue to tune back into their authentic expertise, that they don't feel that they need to reinvent themselves necessarily or to reinvent what they're saying and doing. It's true, learn new technology, learn new delivery mechanisms. But right now, for instance, we're working with some authors who are thinking, well, do I need to change the nature of my manuscript because of what's happening? Yes, there might be some nuances you need to adjust from a business point of view. But overall, if you are authentically speaking and writing on a certain topic, that's going to, and you're a true expert in that area, that's going to really be necessary going forward, no matter what. Here's a great example. One of our authors, Leanne Davey, has a book called The Good Fight. And that is about the fact that we need productive conflict. We actually don't need less conflict. We need more conflict. We have to do it better. She wrote that pre-pandemic, but wow, I mean, now there's so much opportunity for conflict to be done badly, given that we're so disconnected. We're often emailing instead of phoning. We don't have the same kind of personal connections that we did before. So that book is really front of mind for me as I think about what that means in these times. But similarly, one of our authors, Julian Brass, wrote a book called Own Your Anxiety, and it's 99 simple ways to harness anxiety and use it as your superpower, not just overcome it. So we need the business leadership and we need to think about our businesses, but again, that mental health aspect, I also need to think about that piece.
And that's interesting, Jesse, because like I say, you represent so many authors and some of the very, very best. But when you talk about a Leanne Davey, for example, I think that strikes a chord with a lot of people as about, it's probably inevitable that there's going to be friction and gears are going to clash and because of the pressure. So tell us a little bit more, like you've tickled the curiosity of the reader and the viewer. Tell us a little bit more about Leanne's book. If you want to give her a shameless plug, go right ahead, because I think that could be very helpful for a lot of folks.
I have no shame around plugging any of my authors. I love Page Two's list, and I love who we work with and represent. But with respect to Leanne, she's someone who she's a self-described conflict avoidant. And she said, I wrote this book because I needed it. She just said, we need to be able to express to one another what it is that we find is difficult, what our challenges are. And especially if those challenges involve a workplace environment, a leadership environment, or a peer environment where we need to actually work something through and come out the other end, rather than just brushing it under the rug, which we tend to do. And what I'm finding especially resonant right now and challenging, I haven't figured out how to overcome this yet, is just the fact that as we do more stuff virtually, I can't adjust my tone in the same way. You know, in the office, for instance, if someone was having a hard day, I might just make them a cup of tea and then give them a bit of space. And that's enough to establish that kind of connection. Right now, I might pick up the phone, but that might not be a good time for them. So it's a really challenging time right now from the perspective of, you know, running a team and trying to maintain the connections between all of us.
And the title of Leanne's book, one more time for everybody watching.
The Good Fight. That's an easy one to remember. It's a great title.
Yeah, no, and page 2 has a lot of great authors, and we've certainly enjoyed our collaboration working with you as well, Jesse. Just again, for any business leader watching, whether it's an owner, an entrepreneur, a startup, a senior executive, this is for business leaders, and we're trying very hard to create a forum where we're sharing, you know, the values of practical optimism along with daily resilience. Is there a better, bolder question in your view that leaders need to be asking right now?
Well, I loved, there was someone else you had on this series, Gare, Kim King from Limelight Group in Halifax. I loved your exchange with her. And, you know, she's someone who runs events, as I understand, and whose business is directly affected. All of her clients are affected. And yet she was really preaching slowing down a bit. And I appreciated that. She said everyone is in a big rush and is panicking. And I understand, we all get what that panic means. There are some very real crushing financial realities and work related realities and personal ones and health ones as well for many people. So this I get how serious this is. But what Kim was saying that really struck me was, if you can slow down, you can still pivot in a thoughtful way. You don't have to rush out and feel that you need to change everything. And I really appreciated what she said, because as a business owner and someone who is helping to support the work of these authors, we're in it for them, for their thought leadership, for the amazing things they have. Most of them have built businesses or have been cultivating their work over many years. So the idea that they need to kind of run so far because of the pandemic, sort of pivot to the extent that they have to throw stuff out or just leave it behind, just doesn't, that just doesn't sit well with me. I think if you've built your authentic expertise over many years, if you can certainly learn the tools to be able to deliver it differently, but just keep honing it and stay true to what it is that's made you unique this whole time. I think that's really going to continue to be true in the long run.
Well, Jesse, we so appreciate you taking time and you know, keep whatever it is you're doing to fight the good fight over at page 2. You and Trina are just doing a fantastic job with, you know, so many of your authors, like I mentioned, Leanne Davey. This book, Michael Margolis, Turn the Impossible into the Inevitable, Story 10X.
Beautiful storyteller. I've got to plug that one.
Well, yeah, because like I say, I was just so shocked. I was just so shocked just before we went on. Wait a second, it's like, this is one of yours. So
when do we get to plug you? Do I get to do that now?
We're gonna wait for the right time. But
all right.
Big Little Legends is coming out. And again, we so appreciate all your help, Jesse, and continued success out there in Vancouver with Page Two.
Thanks, Gare. Appreciate this very much.
Jesse Finkelstein joining us from Page Two Publishing. And I really like what Jesse brought up about, because if you're like me, maybe there have been times when you've been too headstrong and trying to pivot too quickly, and maybe it's time to take a breather every once in a while and think things through. I mean, Winston Churchill himself took naps during the day, and not that it was a bad thing, even at the height of the London Blitz, to keep your wits about you and keep, as we say, fight the good fight. There's still some battles ahead, but together we're going to find ways to lead better and emerge stronger through the course of these historic times.